Welcome to the Entrepreneurial Biome podcast, a space for nurturing the ecosystem of business, body, and living. What would it be like if you gave your body a leadership role in your business and chose greater happiness every day? These are the conditions that create a healthy biome and a thriving business. I'm your host, Heather Nichols, and I'm so happy you're here. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the Entrepreneurial Biome. I am coming to you today. Thought I'd have a little fireside chat. It is election day in the United States. It's Tuesday, November 5th, the day that I'm recording this. This will be going live tomorrow. And I wanted to just do a short little thing today about musings about politics and the election and polarity and divisiveness and what is possible beyond all of that. I've seen so many extremely divisive posts and conversations happening on all sides. Social media, YouTube, all the places, where people have the opportunity to share their points of view. And, this probably is not a podcast that a lot of those people will listen to. I have found myself sort of trying to have a different conversation only to be met with a lot of resistance and judgment about what I've been inviting people to, which is to actually get out of the polarity and go beyond it all. And, a lot of people have basically said, like, how can you even say that? Like, you can't ignore what's going on. There's fascists, there's, mudslinging from all sides of the equation. And one of the things that I've always known that has always been very clear to me that it's clear more than ever to me now, given this election that we've had in the United States. And I know a lot of listeners actually don't live in the US, but, I know the politics in the US are also far reaching and the world is paying attention. And really, it's like, to me, it's like, this is our time to create the world that we know that we desire to have. And that can only occur with each of us making the choices that are true for us. And, to me, it's like anybody slinging mud at anybody else, whether it is, the red, the blue, whatever, anybody like deeply insulting, harassing, going after anybody else is doing the exact same thing as what they're, what they're like blaming their opponents for, let's just say. And what I would love to see us choose as a world. And I don't have the fantasy that we will all choose this by any means, but we don't have to have a majority of people choosing this. It's like we can change the world, each one of us, by being who we truly are and knowing what's true for us and following that, like, choosing to live our lives according to that. And to me, being a space of allowance and true kindness and honoring of our differences and honoring people for the points of view that they have, even if they are like diametrically sort of opposed to what I am aware of. It's like, to me, it's like so important that we all have a voice, that we know what we know, each one of us, we know what's true for us. We get to have a voice, and that we can be in a conversation with each other that is honoring, that is celebratory of our differences, and that isn't about attacking each other for having different points of view. That is one of the most destructive forces in our world right now, judgment and polarization, and it's becoming even more, only more polarized with all the political stuff going on. And any anybody that engages in the polarization just perpetuates it. It doesn't really ultimately matter what side you're on, because it's two sides of the same coin. And we've seen, I mean, I'm 53 years old. Like I've seen nothing but flip flop, flip flop, flip flop in the politics in the United States as long as I've been alive, and some of the history that I've studied from before I was alive. And there's never really been a politician that has changed it. There's never been a political party that has changed what's going on. Now, there are people that are speaking, like speaking what is true for them, what they know to be going on, and there's all kinds of different voices out there. And the thing that to me is so important in all of this is like having the presence with myself and my own body as a resource for like intuition and awareness. And then beyond my body, but like just myself as a being, as a creature on the planet, to know what's true for me. And the only way that I can do that is actually by going beyond my judgments and beyond my points of view, beyond what I've decided like is real, has to be, and actually being in the curiosity of it all and paying attention to the energy of it all. Because to me, the energy never, ever, ever lies. It's only we lie to ourselves by not paying attention to the energy. And like this morning, I had a guy here who was fixing my furnace, and he was a really kind guy, very helpful. He did a great job. And there was kind of these two things going on where he was giving me information that was really helpful, that was allowing me to have more awareness of what I wanted to do. Do I want to get a new furnace? Do I not? Like just playing with all this, like taking in the information and letting it contribute to me having greater awareness, which I will come back to that in a moment because that's really important. But then also having the awareness of like, he's not only a repairman, he's a sales guy. He's a salesman. So he's here to sell me a new furnace. My furnace is old, time for a new one. And I know it's time for a new one. And it's like, maybe I don't want to do that right now. And so I was able to, because I'm present with myself, I'm present with my body, I'm aware of the energy, and I don't need anything from this guy. I'm willing to not have points of view about him. I'm willing to not project things upon him and, want him to fit a certain role and be like, no, he's a really nice guy. He's not trying to sell me anything. Or the opposite, which would be like, he's just a salesman. I'm so cynical about this, It's like either one of those it creates this sort of like barrier and like vision of this person that I need to maintain. I need him to maintain my carefully constructed and protected reality, and it might be a reality of like, everybody is inherently good and they're just doing their job. Nobody would try to sell me anything or lie to me. Or it could be everybody's full of shit. Everybody's a liar, and either way, like I have to construct how I interact with this guy. If I have those points of view, I have to construct that interaction and how I receive him to validate whatever that point of view is. Everybody's wonderful. Everybody's a liar, and this is just one basic example. But instead, it's like I'm willing, and a lot of times, we do that because we don't want to be present. We don't want to be present with uncomfortable energies, things that we don't want to see, but when we're willing to be interesting point of view, which is one of my favorite access consciousness tools that works so dynamically. Interesting point of view basically is just acknowledging that everything is an interesting point of view. My points of view, his points of view, their points of view, the Democrat point of view, the Republican point of view, all of it. Like, it's all just an interesting point of view. And when you get to interesting point of view, you have allowance. You don't have to slot people and energies and conversations into your carefully constructed reality with your need to maintain it, because you can actually just be a different space that is willing to be aware of everything, receive all the information, receive whatever's going on, and have that create more awareness for you so that you can choose what's going to be true for you. And everybody lies to some degree. Everybody has agendas to some degree. None of that's wrong, and I don't have to like go into like a depth of like compassion. Oh, this guy just needs to feed his family, so it's okay. I don't need to go into any of that. It's like, yeah, he's a person, he has a job, he's doing his job. It doesn't have to mean anything. I don't have to tell myself any story about him. That's a waste of time and energy as far as I'm concerned. I can look at the situation and go, he's giving me information. He's also trying to sell me something. And I can be present with all of it and go, cool. So, and then I can like pull out the threads of information that I know to be true based on my awareness and how I perceive the energy and how I receive it, and then choose according to that. And it was like, okay, I'm aware that this furnace actually may not make it through the year, through the season. So, okay, so what would I like to do with that information? Then I can start to ask more questions and get more awareness of different choices, different energies, different things that I may want to do, And this is just like that's a super pragmatic example, because those things show up in our lives all the time. But they're also occurring on this big scale in terms of with our politics and governments and all that kind of stuff. There's liars on all sides of the aisle. There's big agendas on all sides of the aisle. And for anybody to we're lying to ourselves if we don't acknowledge, if we think that there's any politician or political party that is going to make or break the future of the world. Now, are we putting somebody in a position of great power? In a way, but even that is a point of view that takes our power away. It takes our power away to be able to choose and to be able to be aware of the future that we can create. There's, 8, 9, whatever, growing all the time, billion people on the planet. The power, giving power to one person or one political party in one country or whatever, giving the power to them and seeing them as somebody who has the power to do massive destruction or massive, contribution, whatever, it doesn't acknowledge the very, very real, very potent choice that each one of us has to be something different in the world. And to me, it's like, I would love to have a conversation with people who have all kinds of different, political points of view. But that is one of where everybody was truly asking for greater awareness and information, and asking and where the priority was a true honoring of what each of us know, what each of us are aware of. That's how things grow. That's how evolution occurs. That's how a country becomes greater, a world becomes greater, is when you have true dialogue of hey, this is something that I'm aware of. Did you know about this? And I've tried actually to have those conversations so many times, actually. Most of the time it depends on, who I'm talking to, but most of the time I'm met when it's somebody who's really committed to their political points of view, I'm met with this powerful pushback and resistance. And because it's we feel like we have to protect our points of view, my precious, so dynamically. And But that won't change anything, no matter who becomes president. That when you are that committed to the judgments, the points of view, the decisions, the conclusions that you've made about what is, what isn't, how it goes, how it doesn't go, all of that, when you're that committed, there's really nothing, there's nowhere to go from there, you know? It's kind of like, you know, with during the pandemic, like there was this whole conversation about science and a lot of people seeing science as a fixed thing, but science is actually an exploration that has to come from curiosity about the natural world and an acknowledgement that there's ever evolving information and awareness to be had. And if nothing and nobody has to be protected and no points of view have to be protected, nobody has to be right and nobody has to be wrong, then science has this beautiful space in which to flourish and grow. And we can learn a lot by exploring things in the natural world from a curious point of view. And it's the same thing about, you know, how we are in with each other in the political landscape and all of that. You know, and the thing is, I guess for me, it's like there's so much big money on all sides of the equation, both political parties, candidates, all that. There's so much money involved, and I don't know that anybody could really deny that. Like that's a well-known fact that there is enormous amounts of corporate interest and you know, lobbying and all this kind of stuff. There's so much money involved. And when that occurs, money isn't inherently bad, but people do leverage their wealth to create power and influence and sort of buy politicians and policy and all of that stuff. And so, but it's happening on all sides, you know. So for me to make one party wrong or the other party wrong is like, it's like I'm blinding myself to what actually is going on in the world. And yes, you know, if you have enormous amounts of money, that gives you can leverage it in a certain way. And that's, you know, that could be a beautiful thing if we are willing to leverage our money and create wealth to create for like in the interest of creating a greater future, you know. But at the same time, like again, it comes back to us. It comes back to each one of us being willing to not need to define ourselves, not need to be right, be willing to be wrong, you know, be willing to be like, wow, I thought this and then I changed my mind. You know, like I have been on all like so many sides of the political spectrum. I've never actually registered with any particular party. And it's hilarious because I get donation requests, many, especially leading up to the election, every day from both parties because they're confused by me. They both think I want to donate and support them, you know? And I'm kind of like, I don't see either one of you as the answer. I'm the answer. We are the answer. And there is no answer really. You know, there's the question. So I'm the question, we are the question. Let's be the question of what is possible beyond everything that we've considered, beyond making people right and wrong, beyond being right and wrong, getting to a space of vulnerability where we can be present with those things that we're, you know, because a lot of people are just kind of terrified about a lot of stuff. And I get it. Like, I understand why. And it's like, if we don't sit with that fear and we sit with our own vulnerability and our own desires for a greater future, however that may show up, like, and we don't get really honest with ourselves, we will receive all of that, you know, like all the things coming at us. We're going to filter it through these filtration systems that keep us from being vulnerable with ourselves and with the, you know, whatever our concerns are about the future. And we won't be able to see clearly. When we get present with ourselves, when we get vulnerable with ourselves, when we don't need to be right, we don't need other people to be wrong. We don't need to be wrong either. And we don't need to have it all figured out, but we're willing to be in a dialogue, a conversation, an exploration that is about honoring, that is about going beyond polarity, that is about the exploration of a different possibility that has never existed before, that is the beginning of a truly different future. And that's what I invite all of us to, if we're willing. It really does take a lot of courage to be willing to not side with any particular party or cause, because there will be judgment coming at you from some direction, but there always will be judgment coming at you. There's always judgment flying around, and we can't avoid that. So what if we just, for me, it's been about going, you know what? I'm going to be judged no matter what. I'd rather like have a depth of a relationship with me that is about like truly showing up every day for the earth, for the planet, for all of us, and creating a different reality and a different future. And there's no political party or candidate that is going to make or break that if we as a world actually show up being different and lowering our barriers to each other, into a completely different conversation. So thank you for listening. If you listened all the way to the end, maybe you're different. Maybe you have a different desire, a different awareness. If this was inspiring to you, please do share it. These are the conversations I would like to be having, and let's be having them so much more and showing up in a way that is really about the way, way, way big picture beyond all the polarity, the divisiveness, and into a greater future. Thank you so much. Bye for now. Thank you for joining me for the Entrepreneurial Biome podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, share, and subscribe. For more resources, check out my website at heathernichols.com and my social media channels as well. Have a beautiful day, and remember that your business thrives when you do.